Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Hello, you're listening to the podcast. So there I was. How all great aviation tales begin. And we've got some great ones this week. Episode 172, Hunting Tankers in the Desert.
On fumes.
On fumes, baby.
And that was a good opener.
Yeah.
Good opener.
It was a great opener. And, you know, he talked about something that I had forgotten about, but made total sense as soon as he brought it up, which was they didn't just get on the tanker when they finally found them and get all their gas because they couldn't.
Right.
Or else they wouldn't all gotten on the tanker to get their gas.
Right. So, somebody would have gone, whoops.
Yep.
My engine
Time
quit.
to go get up and close and personal with Lawrence of Arabia down there. So,
well, we had Cutter, and no disappointment. Another former Harrier pilot. He had an outstanding military career, and as usual, a lot of so there I was stories.
He did indeed, and he does have those stories, some fantastic ones. And one of my favorites was the stories of being an officer candidate school at
Those are
Camp
the best.
Upshur.
What'd you say? Oh, Upshur Moonrise. Yeah. Camp Upshur Moonrise. Oh, yeah. That's a classic.
Just have to listen to listen. Yeah, fantastic. So
Gamma
and then
globulin.
Yep.
Try to say that fast when you're drinking.
Man, no kidding. And then I had forgotten that this had happened to him when we showed up in Japan. We first heard about it because we relieved 214. And he was the unfortunate soul who had a wire strike with it. I think he said it was about a 1-inch logging cable.
It could have gone really, really bad.
Yeah. So
and you know what? I didn't know. I didn't know that he didn't even know he had hit it.
No.
Until after.
Had no idea until after. And he hit it at 800 feet. So, I mean, that was up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
for
it's
him
good
to
thing
go
he was
back.
only doing 420.
Right. I think he said 480. That's what I got in my notes. But it
480,
doesn't matter.
420 doesn't matter when you hit a
What's
cable.
60 knots among friends, right?
No. Yeah, that's, when you get done hearing that story, your palms sweat.
Yeah.
Because it could have been really bad.
It could have ended very badly for him. And so we're grateful it didn't. Several other amazing stories of survival and terror and fun and amazing professionalism. Wound up being the commanding officer of Marine Corps Air Station Yuma, Arizona.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was a good deal. He said that was a lot of fun getting to liaison with all the folks out in town and be that direct representative. And I can't think of a finer gentleman to have done that job, except maybe Lawman, who also did that job, you know.
Yeah. Another low performer, right?
Right. Exactly. Exactly. I don't know. What do you say we get out of the way and listen to this low performer tell his amazing stories? We should have been such low performers, I think.
Right.
So until next week, don't sit on the ejection
Here's a
seat.
true story
Don't sit.
about crossing the ponds at night in the world's smallest cockpit on the tanker through the weather. Oh, and to the tanker crew who did that, thanks a lot. We really appreciated that. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. Well, there I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fun.
So there I was in May of 2005, leaving Iraq with a 12 ship out of Al Asad, south to the Kuwaiti border, south to the Saudi border, and waiting to get clearance at 5 a.m. to cross the Saudi border into Saudi to head south to the Saudi desert, pick up the tankers, and then west to the Red Sea, and then on to Rota, Spain. I'm Dash 4 in a 4-ship, the lead 4-ship, because I'm checking both a section leader as number 3 and a division leader as the lead that's taking us out, and it's his job to find the tankers. So we finally get clearance to cross the Saudi border, heading south to wherever the tankers are coming out of, probably Al Udeid, and and trying to find these guys over the Saudi Arabian Peninsula. And if you've ever seen this, you'd have to understand that this is a featureless, treeless, mountainless, sandy desert with nothing and nobody except some Bedouins and some camels for as far as you can see. It's almost like flying over an ocean. So as we continue to fly south, we're trying to find the tankers, can't find them yet. Because we're in Harriers, or probably the same for any fighter, there's never enough gas. No. And your nearest divert is all the way west on the Arabian Sea. We finally find them. We point Ant in the right direction. Ant is the flight lead, and we point him in the right direction. Finally, get on the tankers, and with about 100 pounds of gas to spare, before we got to find the divert in the Saudi desert, and that's is nothing but a sand runway out there someplace. We get in. We start crossing guys across the tanker, getting about 150 to 200 pounds at a time, so that the Dash 4, me, doesn't run out of gas by the time Dash 1 fills up. So we finally get topped off and start heading west. 10.5 hours later, sitting in an ejection seat, eating whatever it is that we brought along with us, and we land in Rota, Spain.
Oh, that sounds horrible.
That's a long day. Oh, true, man. And
true story. Can't make this one up.
Oh, man. Well, many true stories. Many war stories ruined by an eyewitness for General Joe Anderson. But yeah, shit hot. That was awesome. Greetings, everyone. You're Repeat here, coming to you from New Hampshire today. And where's my co-host?
I am blessed enough to be at home in Kearney, Missouri, and it is our pleasure to welcome to the So There I Was podcast, Cutter.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone.
AV-8B pilot extraordinaire and a legend.
Right. I'm trying to think. Cutter, I think I met you in 87 or 88 up in Milton, Florida. Does that sound about right?
I think that sounds about right, Pete.
Yeah. So sounds coming up on right. 37, 38 years, something like that. And haven't talked to you in a couple weeks now, 35 years. So great to catch up with you. Fantastic. Thrilled that you're able to join us. And on that particular one, we'll come back to it later in the show, but you were the squadron commander?
Yes, I had VMA 311, the Tomcats, back in 2005 and 2006.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, the Tomcats, anytime, baby. All right. Well, so I mentioned flight school, but how'd you get even into flight school? What twisted you into aviation in general and marine aviation in particular? How'd you wind up on this path?
Well, I don't know if this is a unique story or not, but it's a story that I enjoy telling. My brother was in the Marines, and so I suspect that he had something to do with this. So I have an older brother. I'm one of 5 boys in my family, but the one that's just older than me, Lester, was a Marine Corps tanker, and he retired out of the Marines as a lieutenant colonel himself. But when he was still a young buck, one day I got a letter. I was still jamming around Madison here at Madison Area Technical College and sort of drifting aimlessly through life as one does when they're 18 and 19 years old. Not a lot of direction. And the Marines sent me a letter that said, if you go to college and get your degree, we'll send you to flight school. And I think truly it was almost as simple as saying, yeah, okay, that sounds like a good idea. And my dad was a pilot. I always enjoyed aviation. I'd never gotten any of my civilian quals or anything like that, but Dad was a pilot, an aircraft mechanic. He was a AMP AI. And so I signed up through the PLC program, went to the University of Wisconsin at Platteville and got a degree in industrial education. And so I'm a shop teacher. And then once I graduated, I got commissioned and off I went. And yes, I still have all of my fingers.
I had to ask. Oh, man. Held up my hands. Yeah, he's got them all. That was a quick side note. That was one of the funniest things I actually ever saw on Dave Letterman. He used to go out in the audience and do Stump the Band and that sort of thing. And he says to this guy one day, he says, what do you do? He says, oh, I'm a butcher. He's like, and you still have all your fingers and everything. The guy holds up his hand and he's missing like 2 fingers.
Is that right?
And Letterman was speechless for the first time I ever saw. He just was like, oh, crap. He was really embarrassed he stepped in that one there. But so I'm glad I didn't step in that one. But okay, so PLC's off to commissioning. Did you do the 10-week or did you go 2 summers?
I did.
Did you fail Life's IQ test and go twice?
I went twice. Matter of fact, I even went to Camp Upshur back when Camp Upshur was still a thing.
Yep. Oh, yeah. And Camp Rupture.
Yep.
Living in that looked like something, for those who don't know Camp Upshur, that looked like something straight out of Gomer Pyle, USMC. It was all the Quonset huts and
I can still smell it to this day.
Yep.
That living in a Quonset hut, and that was something.
That was about the time the movie Alien came out when I went, and we had the T-shirts that said in the squad bay, "No one can hear you scream."
Yeah, that was Camp Upshur was a very interesting place.
Yeah, it was. So what summer were you in Upshur?
So that would have been the summer of '84.
Okay.
I got that. Yeah, '84, and then I went back again in the summer of '86.
Okay.
Yes.
Nice. And had an air contract the whole time.
Had an air contract the whole time.
Well done.
Don't ask me how I got through that test, but I did. Right. And wonders of wonders. When TBS finished, they did exactly what they said they were going to do, and they sent me to flight school.
Weird.
Indeed. Yeah. So, okay. Well, any fun stories from TBS, or should we jump right into flight school?
I will tell you a quick story about Camp Upshur if I can. So one day, I don't know his call sign, and I don't know that I should use his name, but we had this fella. He's a helicopter pilot, and kind of a famous helicopter pilot in my age group. But we were still young bucks then, right? And hadn't gotten through OCS yet. And so he, believe it or not, one day comes down with hepatitis. And or that's what they said. Anyway, okay. So what they said was, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to line you candidates up on the road. So here you got 300, 400 young men, officer candidates, all standing on the road. And they went down the line and handed everybody a syringe full of Glamaglobulin. And they said, hey, you guys are all going to get a shot. And of course, these all come out of the cooler. And so they're all cold. So they said, just warm it up in your hands. And all 300 of us dropped trow at the same time on the road, middle, right in front of God and everybody, just standing there with our backsides in the wind. And the corpsman just walked down the line, took the syringe out of your hand where you had warmed it, stuffed it in your gluteus maximus, gave you a shot, and said, okay, you pull your pants up now. And, and that was our afternoon.
Was it? You said that was at OCS?
That was at OCS, yeah. Yep.
Wow.
All of us had been
going in or anything since it was cold.
It was really
horrible.
It's too bad Styx isn't here, because he would be able to tell us whether that would have even been effective, because I have a feeling that, maybe I'm wrong, I would think that would take a few days or weeks for it to kick in, that if hepatitis was going around, man, it was too late.
that wouldn't affect whether or not they're going to give you a shot in the ass. Come on.
No, that's true. Yeah, the Marine Corps they're going to cover their 6 by sticking it in yours. And welcome to the Marine Corps, there, candidate.
Right?
Stand here and drop your pants.
That's right.
Oh, geez.
Bend over. Here it comes again.
Oh, boy.
Oh, man. Too funny. Oh, shit hot. All right. Oh, man. So, out of TBS, little Fig Mac attitude going on there, I'm sure, because everybody had that, Then down to Pensacola. When'd you get there?
So I showed up in Pensacola in, I want to say, November of '87.
Okay.
Yeah, November of '87, and didn't get my hands on an airplane until May of '88.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, May of '88. And so sat there, what seemingly forever, asking, hey, can I'd like to go to IOC. Can I go to a different school? Can I go to something? Nope. just sit here and pool up. So we pooled up, worked on my swimming and ran every day. And, I found plenty of time to get my wife pregnant. And so there was that. And
fantastic. Good thing you were there for that.
But generally, sort of just
Andy.
didn't do much of anything, except, as far as Marine Corps duties go, there were so many people in the pool. And then finally we pool up, we go through AI at the time. I'm not sure that they still call it that, but aviation indoctrination. And I helped a bunch of guys get through the engines, and a bunch of guys helped me get through aerodynamics, and we all suffered through meteorology. And next thing you know, you get your hands on a T-34. So,
yep, fantastic. Yeah, no, I remember that well. In fact, we somehow wound up with base housing up in Milton, because that's where I thought we were going to go through primary, and I wound up getting over to not Pensacola, Corpus from there instead for primary. But I was up there, and I've lost track of him, and I've looked for him many times. So if you're listening or anybody knows where he is, Mark Costello. And I used to drive every Friday morning down to muster for our 08 Friday morning muster, and then the rest of the week to ourselves. So that was pretty tough duty. Actually got my golf handicap down a little bit, and don't play anymore. But
Weird.
that was some tough duty.
Yeah. Check in once a week, whether you needed to or not. So fantastic. So did you stay in Pensacola for primary, or did you wind up going to Corpus?
Yeah, I sure did. I was in VT3 and went through there. What did they give us, 60 hours or something like that? I don't recall exactly, but 60 hours of flying T-34s and learning those course rules and chasing about flying with helicopter guys, thinking, boy, these guys they're awesome. These are the best pilots in the history of pilots. And and it was great. Had a great time.
Awesome.
Then I selected jets out of T-34s and went off to Kingsville for T-2s, flying the old T-2 Buckeye, the family truckster, and then of course A-4 Skyhawks.
Right. Yeah. Both fun airplanes. The T-2, because you couldn't beat that thing to death with a sledgehammer.
No, that thing was like a tank.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be one airplane I'd actually love to have. Not super fast, that straight wing. Not a very fast airplane, but God, that'd be fun to go out and beat up the world with that.
Yeah, it's pretty unforgiving, too.
Yeah. You mean forgiving?
No, forgiving. Yeah, that's what I meant to say.
The only thing that would screw you up is if you had a hydraulic failure on that thing. You could lose control of it pretty quickly if you jerk the throttles. But because I remember trying that once in a simulated.
I took the T-2 on the road one time and actually did like air navs and things like that, and remember bringing it up to Wisconsin, and I got to show it to my dad and show it to my family and that kind of thing. But if you guys might recall, the radio would kind of go in and out. It wasn't a solid. I think it still had vacuum tubes in it and whatnot. That old T-2.
So the latest and greatest in 50s technology.
So the answer was, well, you need to get a bicycle pump and pressurize the radio, the black box that is the radio transceiver. And so I went home, got my old bicycle pump and pumped up the radio, and it worked out just fine.
No shit.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, you had to pump the radio up with a bicycle tire, or with a bicycle pump rather. Yeah.
Funny.
That was the beginning of a long line of questionable acts that I did working on my own airplanes.
Never admit to that in public.
Gutter, did you have any flying time at all when you showed up for primary?
Not a single hour, except for the time that I would go flying with my father. As I said, he was a VFR private pilot, and would go flying every now and again just for fun. But I had no instruction or nothing along those lines. So. Okay,
and so just through osmosis from flying around with your dad is really it. Well, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
See, that shows that naval aviation training does work.
It certainly worked for me. It certainly worked for me.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Any close calls in primary, intermediate, or advanced? Any downs?
No. Well, no, actually, believe it or not, I got through the whole thing without a down. Well, I will say I got written up. I did get a down one time in T2s, but not for flying. It was for failure to report. And there was a mix up between the Navy and the Marines. All of the Marines one day had to go to Corpus Christi down there, and we were just getting started in T2s. I think I was still in the simulator. And
your booster shot for your ass?
No, we had to go and see the commandant. The commandant, for some reason, as I recall, I think it was the commandant. It was a 4-star anyway, yeah. And was coming to Corpus and wanted to talk to the Marines down in Kingsville. So all the Marines, they were all there, show up, and you know, it was on the flight schedule. All Marines report, and so what I didn't know is that I was also on the flight schedule for a simulator during the same time. Whoops. And so I called and said, "Hey, I'm on the sim. You know, I'm on the sim schedule, but I got this thing with the up in Corpus Christi." And so I went to the thing in Corpus Christi because the person on the other end of the phone, who, you know, was probably, you know, a young seaman recruit or something along those lines. It's just the answer in the telephones goes, "Oh yeah, you better go see the commandant then." And so we'll take care of it. Well, they didn't take care of it, and I come back and I got a pink sheet. And the next thing you know, I got to go walk off this pink sheet. It didn't take long. Everybody sort of figured out what the snafu was. But as you know, you want to get a young student naval aviator fired up or twisted up about something. Just hand him a pink sheet and go, "Oh man, this is no way to," because I just getting started.
Right? Yeah, my career's over. Shit.
This is no way to get started.
Oh. So was the commandant there?
I think it was a commandant, but more importantly, what I really remember about that particular brief was, I think it was Livingston, General Livingston, or maybe Colonel Livingston. Anyway, a Marine walked in to this briefing that, again, was a general. It was a 3 or a 4-star general, and as I recall, it was a commandant. But in walks this colonel a little bit late, and he's got the Medal of Honor on. Ooh. And I'd never seen a living Medal of Honor individual, and I certainly had never seen one at 23 years old after less than a year in the Marine Corps. And this guy's sporting the Medal of Honor on his chest. Yeah. And you're going, well, you know, kind of tough to, you know, everybody's turning around to look and everything, and whoever was speaking at the time, you had to think, boy, that's stuff to one up that one. So everybody, it sort of got everybody's attention.
I can only imagine.
Yeah,
I can only imagine. Yeah, that's wow, that's something special. That's kind of cool.
It was interesting. Yeah, and what, you know, 35 years later, I still remember that gentleman walking in his Alphas with the medal on. So
yeah.
How about that? Hey, side note, who from TBS was also in Kingsville with you? Do you recall?
Oh man, yeah, there was 8 or 9 of us.
Like was
as I recall.
Was Bugsy Betts down there, or was he a Beeville guy?
Bugs was Beeville with me.
Yeah, he was Beeville.
What about Biscuit, Tom Driscoll?
He was also Beeville with me.
Okay.
He was my ACM partner in A-Force.
Okay.
We lost Biscuit in. No, that was Dweeb. Dweeb and Biscuit were both there, but we lost Biscuit in Spain in '92.
John Jansen was there, if you recall. John Jansen.
Yeah. Okay.
John was there. He and I palled around quite a bit. I believe Dave Alio was down there.
Okay.
As I recall.
Yep.
Down in Kingsville. Yeah, now you're putting me on the spot. I don't recall off the top of my head, but I can remember the guys that went Harriers from my TBS class, but I can't recall exactly who was down at Kingsville necessarily.
Yeah. Kenny Perman, was he in Kingsville?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Sorry, I saw a shiny object. I squirreled. Yeah. Sorry about that.
Did you ever tickle a handle in flight school?
Not in flight school, no. Not in flight school.
Yeah. All right. So you get out there. I'm trying to think. So when did you show up at the RAG?
I showed up at the RAG in, let's see, that would have been April of '88. April of '88. Is that about right? I have to keep referring to this.
No, that's not right.
No, because you said you didn't touch an airplane until spring of '88.
Yeah, you got winged in 80.
No, you're right.
89 or
89.
Early 90.
February of '89. February of '89.
No, I had to be February 90.
No.
Yeah, you wouldn't have gotten through flight school starting in '88 and finishing in February.
Yeah, you're right. In February.
Yeah, okay.
90.
So anyway, okay. Regardless, I'm just trying to figure out where we were in the time frame because we had a bunch of mutual friends. I seem to remember being in the RAG with you in '90, but I don't recall. I don't think we were in the same class. I was there with Ripper and Bugsy. I was a class or two behind guys like Punky and Breeze and those guys. So
right.
And this is way inside baseball for our normal listeners, so we need to move on from that. But our normal listeners, I knew what I meant. Our audio listeners and the people who are not there with us, they don't care. But I was trying to figure out what put you in at what time frame. So because you wound up out in Black Sheep Squadron,
right
after the RAG. So
that's
pretty cool. How was that? That must have been a kind of a cool feeling to go to a squadron with such history and get there. Was that?
So it was better than that. In that, when I showed up at the RAG, you guys remember Running?
Oh yeah, Bear.
Captain Running, Bear.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I show up at the RAG with Jeff Smith, with JJ Smith.
Yep.
And so JJ and I show up at the RAG, and we're going to check in, and they said, so this is like April, I think it is April of '90, if I got my dates right. And yeah, that's right, April of '90, because '91 is when they fought the Gulf War.
Yep.
So and that relates to the story. So sure as Carter made little liver pills, the word got out. Hey, watch out for Bear because he's looking for new guys for a good deal, and we all know what that means. So now here's Jeff Smith and I walking in our Alphas, and to go check in at 203, and no kidding, we opened our first door. The first door we opened in the 203 hangar, and there's Bear standing there.
Oh,
and he goes, "Hey, you guys just checking in?" Yes, sir. He goes, "Well, we got a job for you." So, that job turned out to be, we're going to send you to Yuma, Arizona, and you are going to go work at CAX with the Black Sheep. So we're going to go do a combined arms exercise as sort of, SLJOs, shitty little jobs officers for the Black Sheep Squadron. And so off we go to Yuma. Like a day later, off we go to Yuma, and now we're standing there in the Black Sheep Ready Room, and I go to operations and work for a fellow by the name of Burger King, and JJ goes to the S4 office and works for somebody in S4. I think it was Mike Santacroce. And next thing you know, we're at 29 Palms, hooting it up, and I mean hooting it up with the Black Sheep back when they used to have that little airfield at, was it not Surprise Springs, but they had that small airfield, not the main airfield at 29 Palms, but the small one that was designed for VSTOL operations. And so we are truly out in the middle of nowhere working with the Black Sheep for about 6 weeks.
And 29 Palms in the middle of nowhere all by itself.
Oh, yeah,
right,
right. Past the middle of nowhere.
You can't see it from there, though.
Yeah.
And so sure enough, we finished this up, and they said, well, hey, good luck at the RAG, guys. Give them hell, and we'll see you when you get back out here. And we got back out here and found out that the CO had requested Jeff and I to come to the squadron directly. And so that's how we got into the Black Sheep is the CO Smoke at the time, who had handed it off to Sheriff Deloney, said, hey, you want these two guys to come work with you, put them in the squadron, you won't regret it. So that's how we got ourselves to the Black Sheep.
Nice.
So every now and then a bad deal turns into good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just the surprise though of everybody was warning us, hey, watch out for Captain Running. He's looking for somebody for a good deal. And we didn't even get upstairs from the parking lot. We opened our first door, and there he was, just waiting for somebody. And he bagged us, bigger than Stuttgart.
Man, oh, that's awesome. Well, very cool though. Wow, shit hot. So from the RAG out to, and any fun stories from the RAG? I mean, that was all. What was your first? Remember your first flight in a Harrier? Was it a fam, or did you take a backseat ride with somebody prior to?
I'm sure that I got a backseat ride in there someplace, but the interesting story I think of my RAG experience was that we started flying we didn't start flying until November of what would have been 1990, and of course that's during the time when the RAG is getting instructor pilots pulled, and
they're all going down the street to go overseas to fight the war.
Yeah. So Kuwait's been invaded, and the buildup for Desert Storm is beginning, and they changed completely the syllabus for the 203 pilots. And they said, we're going to go from whatever the syllabus was to I want to say an 11-week syllabus. And we're going to fly 3 flights a day, 6 days a week. Hold still. This won't hurt a bit. And
warm your syringe up first, folks.
Right. And so you sort of went to work and you didn't come home for 11 weeks.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, you're a Harrier guy. And we did everything. We did LAT, we did air refueling, the only thing we didn't do is drop any live. We didn't drop any live, and we didn't do a weapons dead. We did everything right there in Cherry Point, and trained like, boy, we just flew a lot. So as far as the days of flying once or twice every 3 weeks, those days were gone, because you flew every day, 6 days a week. You got Sundays off, and that was that. So we went through the RAG. We started in November, and I was on my way to I guess I must have started a little bit earlier than that. But anyway, I was on the way to Yuma in January of '91, because I remember stopping in Gila Bend, on my way to Yuma. My wife and I were driving to Yuma, and stopping in Gila Bend and finding out the war kicked off.
Yeah. Was 214 back in Garrison at that point?
We were.
Okay.
And so we were still in Yuma.
Because I'm trying to think, because I know 311 was in the desert. Did 211 go, or were the rest of you guys there? Okay, because Fig and I were in the only East Coast squadron that got to watch the war on CNN.
Yeah. So we, the Black Sheep and 211, the Wake Avengers, all had the new night attack Harriers. Recall that. So we had the night attacks exclusively. Yep. And so we took those Nightbirds to another CAX, and in February we were in CAX, which was supposed to be sort of our warm up to go to the war. And for the first of many times, more than I'd like to recount, the 408 engine took a gigantic number 2 on us. Yeah. We put one into the side of a mountain, and fortunately, pilot got out and he was fine. But yeah, that was the first of the 408 engine failures, is when we were at CAX.
I think it was Doogie that had one get a case rub and having to jump out of it, and he was at 1G level flight when it happened. But I could be misrecalling that a little bit. But yeah, that was horrible. The 408 was it was getting case rubs at 1G on the test bed, but they put them in the airplanes anyway. But I digress. So, geez, what was I going to ask you more about that? Oh, would you back up just a hair, please? You mentioned CAX and you said combined arms exercise once before. Would you tell folks what that is and why it's an exercise that both sucks and is really cool at the same time?
Sure. It's for the Marines, it's called a combined arms exercise, and the Army does it up there at a place called Fort Irwin, where they do their large force sort of exercises. And what a CAX combined arms exercise does for the Marines is it integrates the infantry and the artillery and all of the logistics functions and all of the Marine aviation functions into one regimental sized effort. And so they have enough maneuver space at 29 Palms that they can put a whole regiment on the ground, and it can maneuver and do its movements to contact and set up the defense and do all of that. Artillery can be firing at the same time, and the Marines, both assault helicopters, close air support, F-18s would come in from California. They typically didn't stay there, at least not when the Harriers are there, but we would go and work out of the auxiliary or the aluminum matting airfields and fly close air support for them, for the Marines that are on the ground doing their exercises. They prepared for their next operation. So they happen quite a bit, or they used to anyway. I know later in my career they were trying to expand the ground space at 29 Palms in order to make them even bigger operations where they could maneuver even larger than regimental size units. So
practice talking to each other is what it boils down to.
And,
well, chaos is happening. Very cool. All right.
That's a perfect definition.
Yeah. So what? So lots of CAX under your belt. Drop it. The cool thing about CAX is getting to drop live. We went out to Yuma. It was kind of like, I think you guys didn't use the chocolates as much as we did in that first year that we were there anyway. I think it's people who live in New York City never go to the Empire State Building or the Statue of Liberty. It's right there, So we came from Cherry Point, and we got to drop all kinds of stuff from, the Mark 82s, 83s, Rockeye and Napalm and all that cool shit. But so that was our fun, is to get to go out to Yuma and then do live weapons stats there in the Chocolate Mountains. Or did you or that may be a misimpression. Did you guys use the chocolates a lot for a lot of live ordnance? Or
we sure did, and that was the beauty of Yuma, is that you were so close to all of those world-class ranges that truly you'd show up in the morning and you'd find out that you're dropping live that day, or you're going to go shoot the gun, or you're going to you get to go shoot a Sidewinder today, or a sidearm, back when we used to shoot sidearm. Maverick, Napalm, Rockeye, back when we dropped Rockeye, cluster munitions. So we got to drop that quite a bit, and you'd always know when it was the new fiscal year, because you started dropping all your live stuff right away, because you never knew when they were going to start pulling that stuff back. So you want to get through all of your allocation before somebody changed their mind and started pulling all that stuff back for budget cuts or whatever it was. But so we did. We got to drop live quite a bit.
Oh, cool. Oh, very
cool. And of course, going fighting out there with tax pods and on the instrumented range and things like that. We didn't do a lot of that, but it was available to us and all of the time. And so, heck, it became kind of a job just trying to manage it. And of course, the weather was always nice, right? So the weather was always great. So flying at night was always
That's not
terrific.
true, man. You were hard down IFR 4 or 5 days a year, easy. Come on. Wasn't always.
It was a clean 4 days out of the year. That's right.
Right.
Usually a Sunday when you weren't going to fly anyway.
Right, exactly. So, all right. And you talked about the tax pods for new listeners to the audio show. We do have soderawos.us/
glossary.
Thank you. Getting there. And we talk about the tax pod in there. Essentially, it's a telemetry, a piece of gear you strapped onto the airplane, and there were all these antennas all over the range that told you who won the fight. So it wasn't any more, last guy to the chalkboard loses.
That's right.
Right.
So yeah, go check out our glossary. Oh, very cool. Yeah, I still remember dropping my first 500-pounder. Pin was the fact that morning up in the chocolates, and pulling up hard so I could roll over and watch that thing explode, and that was cool. Like, man, look at that. Moving some mud down there, or some dust in this case.
It was awfully cool to drop live bombs. That's right.
Yeah. Fantastic. So, all right. So when was your first deployment? Do you remember?
Yeah, it would have been in, I think we went over in September of 91 over to Westpac. We took a whole 20-plane squadron back when we still had 20-plane squadrons, and took them across the pond out of Yuma to Hawaii, and then Hawaii to Wake, and then Wake to Iwakuni. And landed in Iwakuni and spent 6 months there. It was terrific.
Nice. Do any snorkeling in Wake?
We didn't do any snorkeling at Wake, but we did get scuba qualified in Okinawa.
Oh, nice. Okay. Very cool. All right. I remember snorkeling in Wake. It was like, first time there. It's like, oh, this is like swimming in somebody's saltwater fish tank in a restaurant, man. It was beautiful. It's like, holy shit. So
I have if you're interested, I have a story about doing that Transpac over to.
Man.
On the first one. So, I'm maybe 150, maybe I got 200 hours in the airplane, right? So, and I get to be one of the guys. I want to say we had probably 30 pilots in the squadron, and don't ask me how I got it, but but I got one of the seats, right? So I got to fly from all the way across the ocean. Well, we take off out of Hawaii, and about maybe hour and a half into this 6-hour flight, 5.5, 6-hour flight, my generator fails. So you're looking at nothing but ocean, of course, and you're just flying behind the tankers and all the rest. But my generator failed, and it wouldn't reset.
This is bad.
Yeah. So now you go, all right, well, now what are you going to do? So we start making plans to divert to Midway instead of going to Wake. We're going to go to Midway and all the rest. And then, okay, so now I got the generator finally to reset and started working again for a short time. And so maybe another 45 minutes. Yeah. Generator goes offline again. Generator drops offline. Well, now Midway Island is no longer an option. So we're going to Wake Island, whether we like it or not. Either that or we're going to go swimming. So we had Breeze and I. You guys remember Mike Breland?
Yeah.
So Breeze was paired up with me.
He's here in Wisconsin now.
He is, yeah. I talked to him yesterday. Helped him on his house. He's got a beautiful home. He and Vicky are building a lovely home over there by Brookfield, by Milwaukee, northern Milwaukee suburbs. Anyway, so my generator won't come online, and of course now I'm in manual fuel. And
no FADEC for you.
No fade, and because as soon as the battery goes, now you're screwed. So you're in manual fuel, and we got to descend. We're up too high to fire up the APU to charge the battery. So we descend down to whatever the altitude was, where you could start up the APU, charge the battery, and then the tankers all stayed at altitude, and we just keep them in sight the best that we could. We charge up the battery best we could, shut the APU back off when it was time to get gas, and then drive back up and get some more gas, fill up the tanks, and then drop back down to the APU altitude all the way to Wake Island.
Oh my God,
man!
So we land at Wake Island with manual fuel. They service the generator, and I'll never forget. Sheriff Deloney comes up to me the next morning as we're going to go to Iwakuni. He goes, "Hey, Cutter." You guys, if y'all ever remember Sheriff, he had a very thick Southern Alabama accent, right? Yeah. He goes, "Hey, Cutter, here's the thing. If that generator fails again, I don't want to hear about it." And I said, "Okay, boss, no trouble. I'm sure it'll be fine." Take off for Iwakuni. 45 minutes into the flight, generator. I went, okay. And so I said, Samurai.
Why don't you take the jet?
Samurai was the XO.
Oh, nice.
And I said, "Hey, Samurai, Cutter." He goes, "Yeah, go ahead, Cutter." He goes, "Hey, don't tell the skipper, but because he doesn't want to know. But my generator just crapped out again." And you could see, how animated Samurai could get. And if you ever met Tony Alves, and great guy, but you could just see him he was getting animated in the cop. Oh, here we go again. And so we had to do that drill all the way to Iwakuni too.
Oh my gosh, man.
So anyway, that was crossing the pond with a generator failure, and on two different legs. So that was interesting stuff.
So I got a quick Samurai story. Parents, hide your kids. This is at least R-rated. I'm doing the group duty one night, and Samurai I think he's the group opso at Cherry Point.
Was he a rag instructor for when we went to the rag?
I think he did that, yeah. I think he was doing that too. So, but
yep.
So I'm doing the group duty, and I've got my pen craps out. And it's the only one I have. And every desk drawer in the S1 adjutant's office is locked. There's no pens. So I start wandering up and down the passageway at group headquarters looking for an open office. The S3 is open. I wander in there and I start opening desk drawers looking for a pen. Well, I get to Samurai's desk and I open the drawer, and there are Polaroids there in his desk. And he's got a gal sitting in a Harrier with her shirt off and her tatas hanging on the canopy rail. And I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't find a pen, but,
Hey, well, then there's that.
Yeah, then there's Samurai, and he'd gotten it at a recent air show.
God bless America.
Right on. Exactly. So, all right, parents, you can let your kids back in now.
I saw Samurai. Just as I had a Samurai sighting going through security at Heathrow 15 years ago.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Shit, he's up here near me. He's in Maine somewhere. He's probably retired by now from Delta, but we're real close to it.
Kind of lady topless in the cockpit.
Yeah.
That was, you just see what John.
Right on, First Sergeant Crouch.
Yes, that's exactly the kind of lady we'd like to see. Right. Mm-hmm.
Samurai.
Their Fig, drill instructor in the house.
That's awesome.
I didn't figure this out until way later in this deployment that we were on there in Japan. But Samurai was the pilot of the first Harrier that I ever saw in my life. So he had brought a Harrier to an air show in Waukesha, Wisconsin. Okay. And I went to that air show. I don't even know that I would have knew what a Harrier was, but I remember seeing it. And my dad and I were walking around the air show and talking about airplanes and whatnot. And sure enough, there's who I later learned was Tony Alves. Samurai was standing there with the Harrier doing the meet and greet and all the rest at the static display there in Waukesha, Wisconsin, probably 1985.
Wow.
So the airplanes would have been brand new, right? The Bees would have been brand new.
Car smell.
Yeah. Yep. And so, but we didn't figure that out till much later. We got to talking about, when sitting at the bar one night and it came up and figured out that was Tony. So
that's cool. So, all right. So up, down, all the way from Hawaii.
Yeah.
Iwakuni. Oh, that had to suck.
Yeah. And you're, flying around a manual fuel and you're thinking, okay, well, what's going to go next? Then your platform goes, right? Because your INS isn't working anymore. Right. And you're looking at the HUD, hoping it's going to tell you something. And it's just flipped upside down. And so it was, and you had no idea.
Thank God you weren't in the goo.
God, thank goodness we weren't in the goo.
Yeah. Well, I was in the goo. I had that same thing happen leaving Norway to come back.
No kidding.
Yeah, it was a shit show. Another day, another story.
Yeah.
Shit hot. All right. Well, we actually wound up relieving you guys. We were 223 was squadron that relieved you guys in June May of 92.
Yeah.
In Westpac there. So Western Pacific deployment. That was awesome. So how long before we left? So I'm going to bring up the logging cable incident here. Sorry.
Call sign.
Yeah. That's right before we got there, I think, right? That was pretty...
No.
Was that early on in the deployment?
It was very early on, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah,
the Japanese are not required to put up NOTAMs when they put up logging cables, apparently.
It turns out that they didn't bother to tell anybody. No. So as the story goes, for your audience and for the folks listening in, that back in the 90s and the rest, the Harrier was designed to be a low-level attack aircraft. We would use it to hide. We would use mountains and to hide behind in order to avoid radar and AAA fire and that sort of thing. And in order to come up, sort of sneak up on a target, but you'd come in low. Yeah. And so we trained low all of the time. And so part of our training over in Japan was to fly what were known as the different colored routes. This one happened to be the red route in Japan. And Freezer Freeman and I were flying it. I was out front, and Freezer was my flight lead. And we were hustling through these mountains in mountain formation, so sort of a trail formation, if you will. And at about for 800 feet or so, at least according to the tape, from what we could figure out from when we sort of put it all together on the map, I hit this cable with the wing of the airplane, with the left wing of the airplane. Jeez. And I happened to be in a turn, and so it rode up on the number one pylon, cleaned off the sway braces on the number one pylon, and then cut back through the wing, hence cutter, and then the cable itself was cut by the spar of the wing.
Okay,
good Lord.
And so the thing is,
thought of something, but okay, keep going. Yeah.
Oh, the strange thing is I never knew it. I
You're
didn't feel it.
shitting me. No
never knew it.
kidding. Oh,
Never
because
knew
I
it.
was going to ask what kind of terror went through your mind when you went.
Well, so yeah,
and
I was
your
going to
whole
ask
jet
too.
was-
Never saw. Oh my God, there's a cable.
Nope, never saw it, and
Never felt.
never felt it. But you were getting bounced around so much down in the with the low level turbulence and the rest, and the wind over the mountains and the rest is quite mountainous, and so I never knew that I had hit it. I thought it was just another jolt from a pocket of air and just more turbulence.
So you're
But
doing
sure enough-
420, 480?
Yeah, we were doing 480, I think. And so we were cooking. And so we finished running the route, come out on the other side, and my flight lead, so Freezer pulls up on my left side, and he says, at the time it was, hey, crew cut, you got a big hole in your airplane? And I said, no, I did not know that. And he said, yes, you have a big hole in your airplane. He said, whatever you do, don't touch your nozzles, and go ahead and declare an emergency. And so, and you'll remember the anhedral on the Harrier's wing is such that you can see halfway out the wing, but you can't see the wing tip. And so, and this was far enough out on the wing that I couldn't see it. And so, but he could. So when he pulled up into parade to come back into the break to go to the land in Iwakuni, then he could see the damage. And sure enough, it had cut back in there pretty good. So they cleaned the resting gear off the runway. I did a conventional landing without having to touch the nozzles and taxied it back in. And I remember sitting there in the chocks as you're entering in all of your data to update the INS system, so you have a good platform for the next guy. The Mike Santacroce is just standing outside of the airplane, looking at me, shaking his head, laughing, as if to say, you might as well just shut it down because this airplane's not going anywhere for a while.
Yeah, you don't worry about the platform.
Yeah, don't worry about the platform right now. That's
Exactly.
good for you doing your
tighten up.
checklist, but yeah, go ahead and shut it down.
Oh, so I said a couple minutes ago that I just thought of something, and that's exactly what it is. So for people that aren't familiar with the Harrier, when you go into a V-stall mode, be it a slow landing, a rolling vertical landing, or a vertical landing, the way you maintain the attitude of the aircraft is through bleed air off the engine out to the shutter valves in the nose and the tail and the wingtips. And the pipe that carries that air out to the wingtip is right in the very leading edge of that wing. It's right behind the skin. And so you didn't have anything to your left wing.
No, and as a matter of fact, if you'd have opened the nozzles or opened up that butterfly valve, which of course moves with the nozzle movement,
right?
If I'd have done that and sent that bleed air out into the wing, you would have just caught the wing on fire. So because that 8-stage bleed air is nice and warm, so I'd have caught the wing on fire. But so I was lucky in that if the spar didn't cut it, of course it would have cut the wingtip off, taken off both and cut both A and B hide 1 and hide 2. It would have just cleaned both of those out, and the airplane would have hydraulically bled to death, and I would have had to wind up jumping out anyway.
Yeah.
So I was lucky, and I was lucky I was in a turn and not 3 or 4 feet lower, because then I would have just taken it right in the windscreen. So, and that would have been unpleasant. It would have been quick, but unpleasant.
Yeah.
So wing, you've mentioned this a couple times too. So you've got anhedral, dihedral, and straight wings. So anhedral, I always remembered, is it kind of looks like an A. Your wings slope from the fuselage of the airplane out to the wingtip, they slope downward. So that's what anhedral is. And, okay. Wow, man. Terrifying. Yeah. I can't believe I never knew you didn't feel anything. I was thinking, man, that must have been a jolt. I'm like, oh shit, what was that?
I never knew that either. I figured you saw it at the last second and tried to avoid it, and that's how you didn't end up chopping your body in half or something.
Yeah. Never saw it, never felt it, and even we were very, very fortunate that we had our tapes running. So we had the videotape and the aircraft was running, and that we had very, very detailed maps of the route, and made sure that we'd had all the hazards that we knew of back in, we used to do paper maps and all the rest, and carried those with us, and on our moving maps too. We had moving maps in the airplane.
That's great. You guys had that in the
we had that
jets,
and so all that was on there. But of course, there was no information on this particular obstacle for us to use in order to what they call chumming the charts. And when you would go through and look at any new information since that map was released, and so you'd put that information on there, but it wasn't there. And strangely enough, I think we were the 14th or maybe just the 13th section of aircraft to go on that same route in the last 2 days.
Had to be the 13th because
and nobody had seen it. Yeah, it must have been the 13th. Yeah, but nobody had seen it, and it appears that everybody else just flew under it. So because I was up at 800 feet, I was the lucky guy that because we just hadn't gotten down to altitude yet. It happened pretty early on, but we had our tapes running, and that showed that we were doing what we were supposed to be doing and when we were supposed to be there, and not out flat hatting and the rest. And so that it turned out in the end it was okay. But boy, the Japanese were unhappy. They were not happy with us.
I'm shocked. Shocked because they usually love the Marines there in Japan.
They love us here in Iwakuni.
Yeah.
So
well, that's good. I mean, at least it ended up in a positive way. Was the airplane flyable again? What happened to that jet?
Well, believe it turned out to be a real blessing. The airplane did fly again, but not for a long time. They brought in on a C-5, they brought in a container the size of a swimming pool in order to put this to put the wing in to send it back to the NADEP for repairs.
Oh my God.
But that poor airplane that I flew that day was literally stripped of her parts in order to make other airplanes flyable. So they cannibalized that airplane, boy, like you read about.
Wow.
And, oh yeah, they candied the living daylights out of that plane, and then it got a lot of airplanes flying, parts being what they are, and so we were fortunate to have that. We called it that parts house that was the airplane that Cutter flew that day. And I don't remember the number or the bureau of that aircraft. I'm sure I could look it up, but it saved it made a lot of airplanes go flying as long as they didn't need another wing. But they did repair the wing and it flew again. Okay. We flew it home.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, because we never kept any airplanes.
Yeah, we flew it home.
And they had a different version than we had. They had the night attack.
Yeah, the night attack. Yeah. So they didn't make you fly it home, did they? My generator quit. Oh, shit hot. All right. Wow. Any other? Let me pull that banner down. Any other?
Oh, look at that. Yeah. Wait, is that a picture of it?
No.
That's just a picture of the wing. That's just a picture of
the wing with the shutter valve.
The shutter valve.
For those watching, there's a picture of a Harrier wingtip with the shutter valve that shows where the hot air comes out. This one shows really only the top one, which opens when you get past half stick.
But the number one pylon. So you hit it inside of the number one pylon.
Sure. If you look in this picture happens to show number 7, but that's okay. Yeah. Just imagine it being on the other side.
Yeah.
And it rode. it took all the paint off of the inside, the cockpit side of the pylon, tore the sway braces right off, and then cut back into the wing right back there where you could see those little vortex generators sticking up out of the wing. Tore right back in there about halfway through, and yeah.
How thick was that cable?
I was getting ready to ask that. What was the girth?
Of course I never saw it. They never took me to the site or anything, and I think the poor Japanese people would have strung me up or something. But I was told it was an inch thick steel braided logging cable.
Inch thick. Okay.
Yeah. Wandering through that is no small feat. Oh.
Yeah.
So it was. It was set up for some sort of a high line logging exercise that they were or operation that they were doing, and I'm not exactly sure, of course. And
cutting trees up on the mountain, getting them down to the valley.
Yeah.
So bang.
Shit.
But it was up there. I mean, it was up in the air. That's for sure. It was 800 feet.
Yeah, and they weren't marked. They weren't marked with flags or balls. High vis, anything. So yeah, that's a real threat.
And I'm trying to remember, we used to chum our charts, and that was like one of the biggest pain in the asses. It's like the NOTAM system today. It's just broken, trying to get information that's going to apply to you. You got 50 things to look at, and 49 of them don't apply to you. You good luck finding the one in, at number 37 that might come into a play.
Yeah.
And that'll be the one, right? That'll be the one that gets you.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is why I've always called aviation, I've got a secret. Let's hide it in as many different places as we possibly can and hold the pilot responsible when he hits it. So, yeah.
Oh, and put it in a format that few people can read.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Let's use these abbreviations that even pilots have, trained for years and still can't get them without a secret decoder ring. Oh man, shit hot. So, all right. So you're a young captain or senior lieutenant about then, but you went on for a few more ranks. Give us some more highlights from your career. You left in the spring of '92, back to Yuma. What'd you do from there?
So after that tour with the Black Sheep, went to 203 to be a flight instructor. That was great fun.
And we talked about this pre-show yesterday. You got there about 3 months after I left 203.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Thummer was there.
Thummer was still there. Yeah. And matter of fact, one of the first things I remember doing there in Cherry Point was being part of the change of command for Thummer, and when Snake Mullen took the squadron.
Okay.
So Snake took the squadron, which was unusual because Snake had already been 311 CO, and now he gets to be a CO again. So that was kind of cool. Of course, he was Snake Mullen, and he's a legend. So
exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
He always used to joke that, of course, he didn't get it right the first time, so they made him do it again.
Right.
But anyway, so Snake was the CO, and right after it, Thummer had left.
Yeah. So
terrific fella.
Take a quick minute to say a personal note of privilege. Then that in Hawk missiles it was Rich Armstrong, and in Harriers it was Thummer, Mike Thumb. Two of the finest gentlemen I ever met in the Marine Corps, and the finest COs I ever had the privilege of working for. And man, what great guys! Thummer was a wonderful guy to work for. He had me on track to do all kinds of cool stuff in the Marine Corps, and then they tried to send me to the Pentagon, and I pulled the handle. Boom! I'm out. So awesome. Okay, so how many students tried to kill you at 203?
That wasn't too bad. And that was really, because you got to remember that by the time they get there, they already have their wings.
Yeah.
And it really wasn't too awful. I really enjoyed flying with the students and had a great time. I do. And now I wasn't a ACTI, Air Combat Tactics instructor, and so I didn't do any of that. But I did when we did LAT, which wasn't for long. I did some low altitude instruction, a lot of FAMs, of course, and NAVs and whatnot. And you get to fly around the back of the family truckster. The number of times that I flew a single seat airplane when I was at 203, you could probably count on one hand. And so it was a lot of time in the T-bird. That was right. A lot of time in the bobbing pattern, trying to teach guys how to bomb with the T-bird. That was always a challenge. Without an ARBS and it was all just DSL, or not DSL, but CCIP, or continuously computed impact point. So, but that was good fun. That was good fun. We did some experimentation at the time with some night flying with night vision goggles, and can we outfit the cockpit for night flying for an introduction anyway in the T-bird. Okay. That kind of never caught on because of the lighting situation and the rest, and our pilot training. As you guys know, we were always behind on pilot training, and we were trying to get the time to train down, and so there was no appetite to increase the time to train by adding more flights, like introduction to night systems and things like that. So syllabus got chopped up pretty well, and it get built up once and then get chopped back down again because we weren't making pilot training requirements that needed to be made. So that was a continuous battle. And left there as the OPSO. That was great, and really enjoyed my time there at 203.
Nice. Well, that's hard work. Yeah. Hey, let me take just a quick moment to thank our sponsor and tell you all about Masterclass. So I'll cut that out of the YouTube. Well, I won't cut it out of the YouTube. It's right there. I'll cut it out of the audio show if Masterclass doesn't come on board, but they have committed to coming on board. So
Okay.
we're looking forward to that. Damn. Big, if you got a question, go ahead, because I had one and it just left my brain as I was opening my mouth to speak.
Well, I want Cutter to tell us about his ejection story,
Yeah.
because everybody
Where
likes
was
to
that?
hear ejection stories.
Yeah, of course. But where'd you eject?
I ejected in the Chocolate Mountains
Okay.
back in December of '92.
Okay.
December.
Oh, I know what it was. Oh, I'm sorry. I want to back up just briefly. And the only reason is because we were in 203 in the T-Bird, and that was something I've never thought about. Because, Fig, I don't think you never flew a night attack, did you?
No.
Yeah, neither did I. As soon as you said it, it's like, oh, of course. The cockpit lighting is set up completely differently for
Yeah, it's
flying on
good.
the Knox.
Right.
So
That makes complete sense.
So that's why you could. The other reason you couldn't do it, the lighting was all screwed up. It was
Yeah.
green and not red, right?
Yeah, it was really, we were just thinking about an introduction to even in the back seat, right? So a kid could put a night vision goggles on, but at the rag, so it wouldn't be the first time he did it in a two-seater,
Yeah.
or the first time he did it would be in a two-seater and not in a single-seater. But that was sort of poo-pooed. But that was sort of a fun experiment, and I went flying one time, because I had experience doing that, and so we did that in a T-Bird one time, and it didn't take long to figure out, I don't think the juice is going to be worth the squeeze here. And
Not ideal. Okay.
yeah, it's not ideal.
All right. So sorry I threw the wrench in those spokes there, but yeah. So let's get back out to Yuma. You were now you were with the Tomcats 311.
No, I was still with the Black Sheep,
Oh.
and this is during my first tour, and so we were. This is a good story. You guys ever heard of Hobbitville?
Is that
Okay,
the fake?
so
Is that
maybe?
the fake town? Is that the fake town? That's
No. So Hobbitville, we were supposed to have gone on the Black Sheep under Henry Joe Coble, call sign Hobbit, was supposed to go to on a deployment. I'm going to say to Holloman or something like that. And we were gonna. I don't remember where it was, but Hobbit wanted to take his squadron on a squadron deployment for training, and by golly, we were going to do that. So we put it all together and ran it up the flagpole to see who had saluted, and of course we got a big thumbs down. So Hobbit said, well, if we can't deploy to somewhere else, we're going to deploy to the middle of the runway. And so we set up Hobbitville, and in the middle of the parallels there in Yuma, and we lived and worked out of Hobbitville every day
I
for
did not know that.
a couple of weeks.
Oh my gosh.
So here we are doing our squadron deployment to the middle of the parallel runways in Yuma, which in hindsight was like, yeah, that was cool. I mean, it was okay. But that's when this happened. So we were doing CAS one day, and as you'll recall, after the Gulf War, everything went from low altitude to sort of medium altitude tactics,
Yeah.
right? And so we're up there. We're at I want to say 18,000 feet ish, and myself and my wingman, and we were up there trying to get the facts to be able to see us so that they could clear us hot. We had the tactics hadn't evolved to type 1, 2, 3 close air support, that sort of stuff yet. So it was all still. You had to get it cleared hot. Well, in order to get it cleared hot, the FAC had to see you and see which way your nose was pointing, and the sight picture was all different anymore, because you're going to be releasing your ordnance at, like, I want to say 10,000 feet. I don't remember exactly what it was, but you were coming in high, and you were going to release high.
You're a
so that
tiny
you
dot
could,
in the sky.
right, and so you couldn't get the FAC to see you. Well, it turns out that one of the tactics that we use during that, it's not a tactic, it's more of a technique. How do you get the FAC to see you? Well, you give them a little shot of gas, right? So you reach down and you grab the dump switches, or one of the dump switches, and you just, when you're fixing to roll in, you dump a little bit of fuel out of your wingtip. It makes a big white cloud in the sky.
Turn your
and
contrail switch on.
Turn the contrail switch on.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So anyway, so you do that, and it helps the FAC see you. So I roll in about 18,000 feet. I'm over the top, pulling pretty hard on the stick, getting getting sadly slow because I'm trying to stay on the cone of for the geometry for the bombing run, and I tell the FAC, I said, hey, here comes a little squirt of gas, and reach down and grab the dump switch, and it turns out that if you, instead of throwing the dump switch, if you throw the manual fuel switch, which is shaped exactly the same as the same type of switch, if you throw that instead, you can burn your engine up inside of a second and a half.
Yeah. Weird.
Yeah.
So my wingman says, hey, are you putting out flares? And I said, no, we don't have any flares. And
I'm putting out turbine blades, dude.
and that's exactly what I was doing, is I was putting out turbine blades.
Holy shit!
It was just dumping raw fuel into the turbine.
Yeah.
And
yeah. So high power, high alpha, and so shame on me. But that's what happened. Now, of course, you know, I didn't realize that at the time because I thought I threw the dump switch, and I thought, well, what the hell just happened? And I just banged my compressor, so shut the fuel switch back off again, which happened to be the manual fuel switch, and switch back into normal control or to DECU control, and for the electronic fuel control. And so looked up at my instrument panel, and all the lights are out. Looked at my temperature, and temperature's 999 something, and on the exhaust gas temperature. And I said, well, this is weird. And so I shut the engine off. And if you ever wonder whether or not, you know, when you shut the engine off, when you're flying, whether or not it gets really quiet, it does not get really quiet.
Yeah.
It gets louder than it was just a minute ago.
Oh, because you're now depressurized.
Because the canopy seal deflates, and now your canopy is rattling in its you know, its little hooks, and rattling back and forth on the rails, and you can hear those blades out there going clackety 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 clackety.
Don't talk back.
Yeah.
So that, you know, so here I am waiting for it to cool down. I got to get it down below, I want to say 300 or 360. I don't remember the exact number for an air start anymore. It's been a few years, but I'm trying to get it cooled down and riding this thing down, trying to glide it the best I can, and you know, get some, of course, you know, your generator's offline, everything's offline. And get down to try to restart it once. I want to say at about 7,000 feet, something along those lines. And nope, no luck there. Shut it off again. Tried to cool it down some more. Tried one more restart about 4,000 feet. The ground's starting to come up kind of fast. This is now down in the southeastern part of the Chocolate Mountains. I'm pointed down towards Yuma, but you're not going to make Yuma. And of course, for those that don't know, even if there was an airfield, you can't dead stick a Harrier. So you can't land a Harrier without the engine running, because at some point the hydraulics freeze up and when the engine stops windmilling. But you still have control as long as you got speed and the engine's windmilling, the hydraulics are being driven. So I could still fly the airplane.
Yeah.
But I did know that at some point you're not going to be able to do that. And it was pretty clear that it wasn't going to start. So I get down to about 1,000 feet.
Oh my gosh, that's low.
And pulled back on the stick to slow down some more, try to stop my rate of descent, and pulled the handle, and because well, without trying to be overly dramatic, and truly not trying to be too dramatic, but the first thought that goes through your mind first thought that went through my mind was, oh, so this is what it feels like to die,
right?
Yeah, because it is spectacularly and almost unexplainably violent. And I've never been in a bad traffic accident, a bad car accident or anything, but it must feel something like that. I have landed on the carrier with a tail hook and been shot off the front end. And it was, and a cat in a trap on the carrier just pales in comparison to how violent that seat is. So you're going to go right now. And so, and I went out in the low and slow.
Oh yeah, okay. So
mode,
hey, Cutter, how slow did you? I mean, if you had the SA, how slow were you when you jumped out?
I want to say it was just in. If you could remember what the different speeds were, I want to say that the slow speed was like, I want to say 170 or something like that, and I was just inside of that because like I said, I pulled my nose up to stop the rate of descent and slow down, and because I was gliding at 300 because I was trying to keep the speed up for the air start.
Yeah.
And but I slowed it down, and so I went out low and slow. So you had a full shoot in like 1.3 seconds.
Yeah.
And and holy crap on a cracker. I mean, it's really something. And I don't,
did you stay awake? Did you stay awake for it?
Yeah.
Do you think you blacked out a little bit? Oh, you stayed awake?
Yeah, I stayed awake the whole time.
Did time slow down?
0 out of 10, do not recommend. Yeah. But yeah, so I stayed awake the entire time. I remember leaving the airplane and my canopy, the det cord,
blows up.
That's supposed to explode to blow the canopy transparency out, that failed. So I went through the canopy and got hit by a pretty good piece of it.
Oh.
And so that hurt. And the det cord wrapped down by my neck and burned my neck. Not seriously, but enough to, it's like, oh, I got a burn on my neck now.
Did you keep your helmet?
Kept my helmet and my mask. Although my mask didn't stay on on my face, but so it was ripped off.
It was a new chin. Oh, okay. So say it was a new chin strap, or
so kept all that, but what had happened was that my risers were twisted, and so when the chute came out and it opened, the risers were twisted. So as I was descending, I'm rotating in the air. So one rotation, I saw the airplane go in, and on the second rotation, I saw the fireball growing from where the airplane hit the ground. And then about the third rotation or so, then that was time to get ready to hit the ground. And I remember thinking, boy, this is going to hurt. This is really going to hurt. And hit the ground and in the chocolates. Fortunately, not in an impact area, but there was still plenty of ordnance around. It just happened to all be blue.
Thank God.
And yeah, thank God. And so hit the ground and stood up and went, well, that wasn't so bad. But so because I thought, boy, this is really going to hurt, and it didn't. So that's that story. But so when the helicopter guys came to get me, so Yuma SAR comes to get me.
Okay.
And when they do that, so I come walking up to the walking up to the helicopter when they came to pick me up, and the first thing that they do is they take your patch. That's their prize for coming to pull you out of the desert, is they take your patch and they put it up on the board. And that patch was on the board for 25 years. And when I left Yuma, after having been the commander, the SAR helicopter guys put that patch in a plaque and gave it to me, and as a thanks a lot. So I finally got. Yeah, I thought to be honest, that's the most meaningful gift I ever got from anybody in my life, because it was their patch to keep, and they gave it back.
Nice.
So now it's downstairs in my bar.
So you need to shoot me a photo of that and let me make that the episode photo.
What's that? The picture of the patch? Okay.
Yeah, your plaque with the patch.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll do it.
That's cool. So
you bet.
Hey, you triggered. Well, so real quick, a lot of guys that describe ejections to us say they get kind of time compression. When everything kind of slows down and they see the airplane going away and all these other things.
Some guys even report like, oh, the handle didn't work. Oh, there it goes.
Yeah. So did you have any of that, or was it just bang, pow, and you're out in the air?
The whole idea of people delaying the ejection and the rest because it is very comfortable in there, and this is not going to be fun. Yeah. That's very, very real. You think, hey, how can I get out of this one? How can I not have to? Maybe I can land it on this, and you can't land it. And so when it was all right, it's time to go. Either go now, or you're never gonna do anything ever again. And so I pulled the handle, and it happened. It happened very, very quickly. And like I said, it was extremely violent. But after that, that's when the time compression happened. And as I was rotating in the underneath that parachute, you could see the airplane, and then you could see the fireball, and then you could see the ground coming up at you, and that kind of thing. It was surreal. It was very, very surreal.
Nice. Okay. Well, so of things slowing down and those feelings, and First Sergeant Crouch asks, "Did I can even put up the comment, but basically he's asking, are you thinking on the way down? Those are my favorite wings. This may be the end."
Well, yeah. No, not at the time. At the time, no, because as I said, I think what you're asking is, had I known that I'd screwed the pooch. I didn't know at the time. I thought I'd thrown the.
Oh, right. I didn't realize you hadn't thrown the fuel dump.
No, I hadn't. No. Okay. No, and that wasn't until later when they were doing the analysis on it, and he kind of came to the SAD, and it's the toughest thing to talk about because hey, that's your fault.
I've never thrown the wrong switch, not once. Fig, have you?
Oh my gosh! No, only by the grace of God. Right? That wasn't me or you.
Exactly.
It just happened to be Cutter that day.
Yeah.
Because I remember the fuel dump switch and the manual fuel switch are kind of in the same spot.
Yeah,
kind of in the same spot.
Back on the left.
Did they make any engineering changes after that?
Yeah.
So they were already making the changes. The manual fuel switch itself was, in some aircraft, had already been changed to a different shaped switch.
Okay.
Right? But it was a T handle, and in this particular case, it had not been changed. It was still lever locked, right? The old lock lever lock switch.
Center. Yeah.
Yeah, and but in this case, they were the same. But in the end, you just got to come to grips with the fact that, hey, I didn't look at it. I was flying the airplane and trying to find the FAC and keep my eye on the target, and I just reached down and felt the switch and thought I had moved aft from those paddle switches that were there, and which I don't recall exactly what, but the dump switches and the manual fuel switches were separated by another set of switches that were shaped differently.
And so, what, the SAS switches right there too?
That could have been the SAS switches. Yeah, that I don't recall exactly what those switches were, but nonetheless, yeah, that one's on me.
Hey, I want to.
That's really stand up of you to do that. And the truth is, yeah, okay, it's on you. You're the one that moved the switch, but that's bad human engineering interface to have that switch. A switch that can kill you anywhere near.
Right.
A switch that is relatively innocuous to touch and to throw, and have it shaped the same and operate the same and all that. That's poor engineering. Now, that being said, yeah, I've thrown the wrong switch and gone, and put it back. I was just lucky it wasn't my manual fuel switch. Like right. Fig said, there, but for the grace of God. So it's stand up of you to say, Cutter, man, shit happens. And how many guys would have said, no, I did not do that. I don't know what happened. You figure it out. So.
All right. I got you said something a little bit ago. It triggered a memory, and I want to ask you about this because ironically, I just flew a trip at my big boy job with the individual that I put up to this. So this is when you were the commanding officer of the base at Yuma.
Yeah.
And I was in the Air Guard at the time, and to make the story short, I sent a lieutenant to see you because they were down in Yuma doing something, and I told him, hey, go to his office, tell him you need to see him, and then tell him this message when you walk in. And he was scared shitless because you were a Marine Corps colonel, and he was. Do you remember this story?
It's not ringing any bells right now. Yeah. No, I'm afraid. But
he had somebody with him that kind of videoed it. But he came in and he said, "Sir, I'm delivering a message from Fig Newton." And then before he could finish, you were like, "Oh, for the love of Pete, Fig Newton! I'm not going to believe a thing that comes out of your mouth, Lieutenant. Get the hell out of my office or something." And then you gave him a coin and slapped him on the back. Said, "Get the hell out of here." All right.
Fantastic. Oh, and Sandy Mayberry saying, good to see.
Well, hello, Sandy.
Yeah. So we love Sandy. We're going to see Sandy in November, I think. So Sierra Hotel, we're doing a mini squadron reunion thing in November for the birthday. So, well, shit hot. That's awesome. So if Fig mentioned it, he's spoiler alert, retired as a colonel. So what was the coolest job that you had in the
Marine? Yeah, that's a good question.
I gotta say the coolest job I had was had a great squadron. I got to lead the Tomcats in through a tour, or through the second half of their tour in Iraq. Clyde Woltman was the CO for the first part of that, and then he got promoted to 06, and so they said, well, we can't have 06 squadron commander, so get out of here. And I was slated to be the next CO, so they put me in command there in Iraq. So that was kind of cool. Made it tough to have a change of command party, but but que sera. I mean, it turned out pretty well, and it was certainly less expensive for me to have the change of command in Iraq. Yeah.
Were you already in the squadron? Were you like the XO?
Yeah, I was the XO for like 3 months, from November through February, and then I took command in February. But the job I had as the base CO was great. I got to fly C-12s. I got to fly with the F-5s, and of course, you're never sort of trained to be a base commander. You don't, but your job was to go out and be sort of the face of the Marine Corps in town, and I really enjoyed doing that. That was a lot of fun, and you got to work with the mayor and the sheriff and the police chief and all the rest. It was a good job, a good and necessary job. But I will say that I think the most rewarding job that I had wasn't flying. It was when, after I left 203, I had my first non-flying job, and I went up to NAVAIR. The Naval Air Systems Command was up in Pax River, Maryland. And NAVAIR, for those that don't know, those are the people that do all the buying and selling, and I guess they don't do a lot of selling, but they buy airplane parts, and they buy airplanes from, the entity that buys airplanes from McDonnell Douglas and Lockheed and whoever we buy airplanes from. Well, that's the Naval Air Systems Command. I'm sure the Air Force has an acquisition group that does the same thing, but for us, it's NAVAIR. And for a long time, I was what they call the individual that was the GFE manager, the government furnished equipment. So if you had to send something to the assembly line that wasn't made commercially, for example, ejection seats or engines, the engine piece was mine. So I was in charge of getting the engines on contract and ensuring that they went to the assembly line. Well, then the engines started having all their issues, and we started having these red stripes. And so they came up with a new team called the engine team, and they said, hey, Cutter, you got it. So here you are, Major, and it's your job now to figure out what's wrong with the Harrier's engine and why do these things keep coming apart and not working. We blew up a couple. One we knew failed on the test stand, and it turned out that it was one of the bearings in the engine was failing, and we couldn't understand why. And so this team is the group that got together to figure out, hey, what's going on with these engines and why is this a problem, and how do we fix it? Well, in the end, and I'll make a very long story as short as I possibly can, but we did figure it out, and it turns out that when you started to analyze it, we would get new engines from Rolls-Royce over in Bristol, England, and we would get rebuilt engines from the NADEP in Cherry Point, and other places, right? The other place, but in this case, Cherry Point's the main feature because Cherry Point is where they did the engine balancing. And it turns out that it wasn't the number 4 bearing. The number 4 bearing wasn't bad. What was bad was the balancing of the engines that was tearing the number 4 bearing apart. So if you guys remember sitting in the fuel pits at Cherry Point, and you would be just sitting there idling, and the airplane would just sit and shake like this. Yeah. Remember that?
Yeah.
And everybody said, yeah, that's the way that's supposed to be. That's
your nozzles are hitting the tailplane. Lower your nozzles 5 degrees, 10 degrees. Yeah.
But in this case, it wasn't that. It wasn't the nozzles. It was the balancing. And so the balancing of the engine was tearing the airplanes apart, and it was focused on the number 4 bearing, and then it would fail. So we found what the answer. We found what the issue was. It happened to be a very, very, very slight change in tooling between the NADEP and the Rolls-Royce people. Again, trying not to be too technical, but it was John Gatton, a fellow who was in charge of the engineering department, is the guy that found it. And sure enough, once we found that, they were able to fix it, rebalanced all the engines, and we didn't have a problem again. And that was right about the time that, right about 2001, the 9/11 happens, and the Harrier fleet now has got some engines that have a fair amount, or better anyway, reliability, and so that helped quite a bit.
No, well, let's say some lives is what that did. Sure.
Well, it did, and it really made a difference. Now, and then we started doing vibration monitoring and things like that, and whatnot. And the second thing that we did that you guys might even remember is we tried to figure out what we can do about engine FOD, and we said, how are we going to keep these engines from being FODed, and if they were FODed, how do we keep from having to pull them? Because for folks that don't know, in a Harrier, you have to pull the wing off in order to get the engine out.
Yeah.
And so it's a pretty big operation. And for most airplanes, you can change an engine, like say in an F-18 or an F-16, you can change an engine in about an hour, I'm told. That happens pretty quick. In a Harrier, it takes almost a week. And that's for a well-trained crew, assuming that you have all the parts that you need and everything else. So we happen to be, this story, of course, like most stories, involves alcohol. So this crew, including John Gatton and some of the other fellows that were on this team, were trying to figure out, hey, how are we going to solve this FOD problem? And we took the example from a 737. When you look at how low those engines are slung, and they said, how does that engine just not get FODed all the time? How can it be that engine isn't just trashed all the time, sitting as low as it does to the ground? And so what we did is we wound up calling. It just pulled out the phone book and called the people there at United Airlines in Chicago, who through a series of phone transfers, we got in touch with some fella out in San Francisco at their maintenance facility, who turned us on to this group from Pratt & Whitney that had the capability of going in through the side of the engine, grinding out the FOD damage, cleaning it all up, and putting the engine back in service without ever taking the engine out of the airplane. And so,
wow.
So it was fascinating. It's called, it's got a weird name. It's called in situ engine blending or blade blending.
Okay.
And they would take the nozzle off the airplane, go in through the borescope ports and through the side of the engine. And they said, yeah, we do it on commercial airplanes all the time. We just go in and grind them down, and we never take the engine off the pylon. And for us, we got it tested, we got it checked out. They even made some special tools for us for the Harrier in order to do that. And they blended hundreds of them. They did one for me when we had engine FOD in Iraq, and they flew to Iraq. This team, it was a service that we bought instead of training our maintainers. I understand we train our maintainers to do it now, but at the time it was still a service. And they flew into Iraq, blended the blade, and flew out again several hours later. And it was all while I was asleep, and I didn't even get to go say thank you.
How about that?
Yeah, it was a pretty cool find, because it was millions and millions of dollars to change engines. So,
yeah. Oh,
and time, and the time.
Man hours lost, the airplanes down, everything else. Yeah.
Think of a time when you guys were in when we were offline Harriers in the 90s in particular, when you weren't pulling engines. Everybody was pulling an engine for something.
Yep.
And so if we didn't have to pull in, now we couldn't fix every one. I mean, if it was too badly damaged, you couldn't fix it. Sure. But some of these minor hits that we'd have that would cause us to pull an engine, we could fix that while it was still sitting in the plane, and we didn't have to take it out. So those are big wins, and it wasn't a flying story, but it was sort of a good example of, hey, you put the right team together, and you never know what you can come up with, and it really did make a difference, I think. So kept people flying and made us more reliable.
Nice.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. That was a pretty good deal.
Well, how many years total did you do in the Marine Corps, sir?
I did right at 30 years. Right at 30 years.
Wow.
I took my last tour up in Vermont. I was actually the professor of naval science in Vermont. So I got to teach college, thinking I was going to teach when I got my original degree is in education. So I thought I'd teach when I got out of the Marines. And So I went and got warmed up. They let me be the dean for a year. I was the dean of the College of National Service.
Nice.
So yeah, it was pretty good. The tough part was trying to keep up with a bunch of college students when you're LPT, and so that was kind of a kick, is trying to keep up with these guys. But it keeps you on your toes.
Yeah, this age thing sucks.
Well, thank you for your service, sir. 30 years. That's impressive. That's
It was fun.
It's truly
fun.
impressive. And I bet if it went as fast for you as it did for me, it was like, how did that happen so fast?
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So, well, indeed. Thank you. Thank you for your service. Thank you to all active duty and veterans for all of your service. And thank you to the families who sacrificed and kept the home fires burning so that those who do go out and serve on active duty are able to do that and have the support from home, because that's as big as and often a larger sacrifice than those actually on active duty. It's tough duty sitting behind and keeping the family together and all that. So we're grateful to all of you who do that. That's a big deal.
Hey, are we going to do an extra?
Yeah, I think so. I think we can.
Okay, good. Because I was gonna. I'm not gonna ask it then. I'll wait for the extra.
There we go. Tease it. Tease what we're going to do in the extras.
You want me to tease it?
Yeah.
Well, I was
tease the
gonna.
extra. What are you
I
gonna
want
ask
to
in the
know
extra?
about the test guard at .99 Mach.
There we go. All right.
Okay.
So we're going to ask about him flying .99 Mach on a test flight in the extra. And the extra goes to all of you people that we have to thank who have lost all common sense of financial management. You crack your wallets out and you give us money.
Yeah.
Thank you. SoleraWos.us/Patreon or SoleraWos.us/donate. And I actually think I'm going to come up with a Venmo for us so that they don't even get to take a 10% cut of that. But the money will go to us instead of the fine folks at Donor Box and Patreon. So, but thank you to all of you at Patreon and donate and give us money. We're humbled. We're shocked that you give us money, but we're grateful because that's what keeps this show going. In all honesty, so
For real.
Yeah.
Gotta say thanks to Sticks and Bago. Bago today, he's in the background doing
He's
some
speaking,
production for us. Thanks,
Yep.
Bago.
Indeed, Bago. Thanks for showing up and taking care of this for us. And then the people who started playing and stopped playing and started playing again.
That'd be the Dos Gringos.
Both
Those
of
are
them.
the two F-16 pilots that make the Air Force sound good.
Do indeed.
They're awesome. They got 4 albums, not a bad song on any of them. And if you're having a bad day, play one of their songs. You'll laugh your ass off.
Exactly. So, until next week, everybody, stay safe. Check 6.
Well, there I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond of all the shit I was wearing on that day. Now an F-16 is cramped enough, but it's even worse with all that stuff supposed to save your life. But we knew there was no way. 'Cause when you're going down the North Atlantic, man, it's over.
What?
He said it's over.
Okay, that's a lawsuit.
Can't be over already.